Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Showing Up to Your Life podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Art Burns, and guess what? I am really excited today. I know I say that every day, but actually today is kind of special. Not only is it my personal wedding anniversary of 16 years, which is kind of nice. So go me and my wife. But it also happens to be the day where I'm about to record an interview for the Love Power Summit. Okay, this is a summit I've been invited to speak in that is about the science of love. Now, anyone who's listened to even just a couple of the podcasts here knows that that is something I was born to talk about. So I am really excited about that too. But today I'm really excited, as I always am, to share some information with you about how the practices that I talk about here, right? These very, very simple practices that help us to cultivate the skill of well-being, right? And we do that through cultivating our own presence, the ability to accept what is happening to us in the present moment. We cultivate this skill of compassion as we allow our hearts to lead us through the decision making and the actions that we take. And then most of all, or equally as much, we focus on, we cultivate a curiosity, a healthy curiosity, right? Because that is really what cultivates or kind of enables the whole thing to happen, right? When we can approach life with a curiosity, right? It removes the judgment. It allows us to approach things with the beginner's mind, as we've talked about here before, right? Which is that kind of notion that you don't know what you don't know about any given subject, right, or any given person or circumstance or experience of any kind, right? If anything that you're approaching in your life, there is usually, almost always, in fact, much more that you don't know you don't even know about the thing than what you do know and what you know you don't know, right? And that's really fascinating. And so curiosity is what helps us to open up to this whole, kind of concept, right? So, and it really does kind of work in a cycle, though, as so many of the things in this work do, right? Because the curiosity, allows for presence, but presence allows for curiosity. Right? In the sense that when we are really present with what we're doing, right? We're not thinking about, what might happen at the end of this experience or what I could have done to make things different or what is that person going to think about me or what is this person going to think about me? Am I going to fail? Am I going to succeed? All those things, right? All those thoughts that come through our minds with extreme speed and extreme power, right? They can derail our ability to be present in this given moment. And so all four of these things, and you could start anywhere, right? Compassion allows for curiosity, right? Because so many of the people that we meet throughout our lives, right? We have certain, kind of judgments about them, and we have certain, kind of impressions that we have about them, and we react based on those. And when we do that, that's when, again, we take ourselves out of the present moment. We're not accepting what's happening, and we're closing down our curiosity, and we're instead being judging and prejudging even. So you can see where you could start anywhere, and we could start with acceptance too, right? Acceptance allows us to see to open ourselves up to the compassion for others, right? Because we first must accept a person for exactly who they are, and that can come very, very handy in a loving relationship like a marriage, right? My wife and I have been married for 16 years, been together for an additional 6 years on top of that, right? So 22 years now. On April 29th, it'll be 22 years. That's the night I met my wife in 1999. The word 19 sounded so weird to me, but that's, and so there's a reason why we've stayed together this long, right? And a lot of that has to do with acceptance, right? And acceptance, in a very, very powerful way, allows for compassion, which then allows for curiosity, right? Thich Nhat Hanh has a great passage on this in I think many of his books, actually, but he talks about love as understanding. Right? Love and understanding, he says, are not two different things. They are the same thing, right? Because if you really love someone, right, you seek to understand them. right? You don't seek to judge them. You don't seek to change them. You don't seek to impress yourself upon them. You seek to understand them exactly how they are. Does that sound a little bit like acceptance? I think it does. Right? It also sounds like curiosity, and it sure as heck sounds like a lot of compassion. And of course, for any of this to happen, we must be present. Right? And so I've given you plenty of little practices along the way here, and I can give you plenty more, right? But the objective here is to simply, again, it's really best thought of this work as a practice, right? A skill building practice. So many times we kind of, we look at ourselves or we look at others and we say, oh, that person is a patient type of person, or that person has natural presence, or that person's so compassionate and understanding, and that person's so curious. And we have a tendency to think of these things as just innate skills that are, you either have them or you don't, right? And that's the one, if you're going to take anything out of this podcast that I do every day, I want you to take this, that every single person on the planet can develop these skills. And you simply develop it through practice. It's that simple, folks. It really is. And I know I've done 446 episodes already, and that's not even counting the ones that I did before I started counting. So I'm over 500 at this point for sure. And 500 times I've sat here and explained different ways and different, versions and perspectives of basically the same thing, right? Which is, as I just said, that all of these benefits that we can get, these beautiful, nurturing, wellness, right? The things that make us well, right, are practicable. They are practicable skills, just like anything else that you have ever learned to do. Riding a bike, eating food, tying your shoelaces, driving, riding a skateboard, playing a musical instrument, playing a sport, doing math, anything you have ever learned to do, you've done in the very same way that you can develop the skills of mindfulness. And that way is through practice. Right? It's that simple, folks. And so the really basic practices that we talk about here, yes, there's formal meditation, which is where you're not doing anything else except sitting and breathing, right? I'm pointing to my shirt that says breathe to all of you on the podcast here, because that's what it is, right? To just come back to the breath. Right? Sit in a quiet place, as quiet as you can imagine. One of the things that you realize very quickly after starting to do meditation is that there's no such thing as a really quiet place, right? There's somebody talking, or there's some kind of car noise, or there's some kind of water running, or there's even the wind and the birds and the dogs barking and cats meowing. The world is full of noises. So a lot of times, and that's kind of one of the things, right, is that people think like, oh, if I'm going to do meditation right, I got to be nice and quiet, and I got to come out of it with this real Zen feeling of calm and quiet. Zen feeling is their words, not mine, by the way. It's just something I always hear. I think it's a little bit of a misappropriated term, but we can talk about that another time. The point is, though, that a lot of times we feel like we have to have this absolutely silent place, and we have to have this perfect setting and this perfect result of our meditation. But that in and of itself, belies the whole point. Right? Because the whole point of mindfulness and meditation, either formally or in point of mindfulness in general, is not to kind of get this perfect outcome, or this perfect feeling, or this perfect anything. Mindfulness is about just being present with what is happening, right? Exactly as it's happening. Right, for whatever, whether it's something that we enjoy, it's something we don't enjoy, it's something that's pleasurable, it's something that's painful, whatever it is, Mindfulness is what allows us to be there with what's happening and to really fully accept it and to embody that acceptance, right? Like really, we talked actually on the other day when I did my podcast with my buddy Adam Adzel, the Art and Adam, or Adam and Art hour. Pardon me, I got to give him credit because he came up with that, so he gets priority. But the Adam and Art hour, we talked about how how the notion of just being with some pain a little bit is also a practice that we talk about with mindfulness, right? And I talk about that in this podcast quite a few times too. Is that when you feel like you have a headache, right? Or just wait maybe 15 minutes before you take that Advil, right? Or whatever pain reliever you're taking. I'm not, plugging anybody here. If you feel really thirsty, give yourself a few minutes before you drink that water, right? Same thing if you're hungry, same thing if you're uncomfortable. And that's something that we practice, a lot of this becomes like what we practice in meditation becomes what we practice outside of meditation, right? So one of the things that I often teach people who hire me to teach them how to do this stuff is, when you're in meditation, right, there's going to be times where you feel discomfort, right? You're going to, maybe your back's going to be a little sore, or maybe your hips are going to hurt a little bit, or maybe you'll have an itch somewhere, right? Like that's a big one, right? Resist, right? Just be with it. Just allow it to be there and resist the temptation that you have to move, to change something, right? And actually, this is part of the meditation that we do called the body scan, right? Where we literally scan our bodies for what is there, not what we want to be, right? It's not about like, oh, this part of my body's feeling a little stiff, let me move it. That's actually the opposite of what we're doing, because, in doing that, we're not teaching ourselves to be present and accepting with what's going on, right? And so the bottom line of what happens, one of the greatest benefits that comes when we practice, and again, it is a practice, right? The words that I talk about here and the books that you can read and the other videos you can watch, it's going to help you to understand. And for a lot of people, just that shift in the understanding is a great improvement, or a great, sort of shift in their life that allows them to live life on a little bit more of their own terms, right? But without the practice component, it's just not going to get to the deep level. And what happens is if you're just kind of, working on it on a cognitive level, like, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm supposed to stay present, accept what's happening, be kind to others, and try to be curious, beginner's mind. Okay, yeah, I get it, right? If we get it, conceptually, cognitively, right? At a certain point, what's going to happen is you're going to find a trigger. Right? Because as I always say, and that's the whole point of this podcast, is to show up to life, is indicative of the fact that, life reaches out to us, right? In all kinds of ways, and it does not make an appointment, right? Like you don't get an appointment that you're going to get a flat tire tomorrow, right? You don't get an appointment that your kids are going to have a meltdown today, or there's going to be, you're going to drop a jar of pasta sauce and it's going to, spill all over the kitchen floor, right? Life doesn't make appointments for these kind of things or any of the others, right? And of course, I've just scratched the surface, right? I mean, every day we have things going on. We have things going on with coworkers, traffic jams, things being out of stock at stores, remember like about 9 months ago, nobody could buy pasta, flour, or toilet paper, right? Like you could offer somebody $1 million and you couldn't find a roll of toilet paper, right? And so life is going to do this, right? Life is going to provide us with all of these, difficulties. But life also, supplies us with wonderful, beautiful moments, right? Life provides us with opportunities for love, which is something that is just, gosh, I mean, think about it, right? Think about the power that we have to love one another, right? And what a gift that is. Right. So the point is, and then of course there's millions of other, scenarios and experiences that are neither, really beautiful and happy and feel great and the other ones that are difficult and painful and uncomfortable and hard and all that. Right. In between all of these, there's all of the neutral times. Right? There's the times where we're just sitting at our desk and there's nothing wrong, right? But there's also nothing right. And it's just, we're here, right? There's the tying the shoes. There's the making the bed. There's the brushing your teeth. There's the driving to work. There's all of these other opportunities or all these other experiences, I should say, that are completely neutral, right? And so when we learn to attend to all of these experiences, pretty much equally, right? We treat the difficult experiences the same way we treat the pleasurable experiences, and we treat the neutral experiences in the same way we treat those two as well. And when we do this, and when we do it over and over again, right, as a repetitive practice, what happens is we start build a habit, right? We build this habit of just, really being present, being accepting of what arises, allowing compassion into our heart to, in all circumstances, even when somebody's being mean or angry or what have you, and of course we practice the curiosity, right? So after a period of time that you do this, and of course it's all relative, right? So if you put in 5 hours a day, then in 2 weeks, you're going to have this habit start developing. If you only put 5 minutes a day, then you're going to take, a few months to get to this point. But either way, as you continue to do the practice, whether it's formal meditation, informal practice, or some combination of the two, you eventually come to this place. Right? You come to this place where now you have a skill. And one of the most amazing manifestations of this skill that comes when we practice presence, acceptance, compassion, and curiosity, one of the most amazing and most really beneficial, life skills that comes out of this is the quality within us to be patient. All right. Now, I come to mindfulness, and I'm going to share this story on the Learning to Surf podcast with the Adam and Art Hour. I think we're recording on Thursday. I come to this work from a place of real anger. Right. I used to think it was just stress, but and that's one of the things is that you do this practice, you get not only a more vivid and high definition view of what is happening inside of you right now, but even your memories of what you have experienced in the past become more vivid and become more full and sort of easier to kind of relate to and understand. And that has happened to me where I used to believe that really I was just very stressed, and I was, okay? There's no question about it, right? I lived I lived a life that was filled with lots of stressors, and I succumbed to that stress in a big, big way. However, what I realize now is that anger was a huge part of that, right? Like anger was really what drove the whole thing, right? And anger really arises from impatience, right? When I become impatient with someone, right? I remember one time, and this is a story that I am embarrassed to say, okay, I mean, I am truly just horrified as I look back to it. But this is part of mindfulness, right? I don't want to share this with you right now, but because I practice mindfulness and because I've developed the skill of practicing mindfulness, I have a very easy time, even though it's something I'm mortified, embarrassed, ashamed. I don't want to share this. I find it very easy to turn towards it and to face it and to be honest with myself about it. And that's also something that comes out of this work, which is related back to patience, right? Because I don't have to be impatient for myself, right? I can allow myself to take a few moments and really feel this, right? And so, so about 8 years ago. I was very, very early on in the practice of my own mindfulness, and I wasn't there yet, and I was, again, back then, I was the person who I read a couple of books. I felt like, okay, I understand this, and everything I've done, I've been, living in my head. So all I have to do is just go through my understanding with this, and it helped. Like I said earlier, it was amazing the difference that made for me, right? And my friends all were like, "Dude, you're doing great. Like, what did you do? Like, what's going on? Because you're amazing. Your whole outlook seems different. Your whole energy seems different," and it was. Right. But here's the thing, right? And that's what I said before, is that there will come a trigger, right? And my trigger, very sadly, came in the form of a 17-year-old kid, a boy who was behind the counter at a pet food store. Now, I needed dog food, right? I had 2 dogs at the time who, they we were out of dog food. And so, and it was probably like somebody else's responsibility to get the dog food. I don't remember exactly the circumstances, but I went into that store with very little time and extremely little patience, right? Like I was like, this is BS, right? Like I shouldn't be having to do this, but I am here. I'm stuck here. I got other things to do. I got to get to work. I got to do this. I got to do that. But I'm here getting dog food. So whatever, right? And so I plop my bag down, on the, by the register line, and there's like 3 people in front of me, right? Or maybe 2 or 3 people in front of me, right? And already I'm like looking around like, why isn't somebody opening up another register? What the heck is going on here? How could you people run a business like this, right? And that's where the anger was happening in my mind, right? Well, again, I'm really truly embarrassed by this and truly ashamed of it. So the person in front, so 2 or 3 people, the first person was done and left, and still nobody coming to open up another register. Now there's people behind me, still nobody's, this kid behind the register isn't calling for any help. Nobody's doing anything to accommodate me, and of course this is my world and you're supposed to accommodate me, right? That's how I used to feel. And so the next person goes and they get done, and now there's one person in front of me, and still there's a line of people behind me now, and still nobody has come back to open one of the other 3 registers to make this happen quicker, right? And so the kid behind the counter asked the woman in front of me, he says, "Do you have a membership here, ma'am?" And of course, that's what they're supposed to ask, right? I know that looking back on it, right? I know that he's just doing his job. I know that it's really not all about me, and it's not his fault that nobody else is here. I mean, maybe he could have alerted somebody to it, but he's a 17-year-old kid, right? So, I should have been more patient, but I was not. And instead, what I did was, when he asked this woman, "Do you have a membership card?" and she said, "No, I don't," guess what he did? Yes. If you're guessing that he whipped out a clipboard with this form that she's got to fill out when there's still 5 people online, nobody opening a register, and me having to get the heck out of there, yes, he gave her this form to fill out, and it took forever. All right. And again, the whole time I'm just getting more and more tense and more just, I'm like, my blood is boiling at this point, right? And it takes her forever to fill out this form, and still nobody coming to the front. Still, the kid does not call anybody. There's no assistant manager. There's nothing, right? There's just this kid standing there looking at me and this woman and the people behind me, and just, as though we all have just nothing but time here, which again, well, anyway, let me finish. So finally the woman finishes, and she takes her stuff, and she gets her little temporary card or whatever, and she gets her, discount, whatever it was, and she leaves. And I get up there and I plop the bag of dog food down on the conveyor belt at the counter, whatever. And I look at the kid and I, again, folks, I can't even say what I said. I will not say what I said on the podcast here. I'll truncate it and abbreviate it. I walked right up there. I looked at this 17-year-old boy that my daughter is 5 years younger than this kid right now, right? And I looked him right in the eyes and I said, you're a real DB. You know that? I look back on that, and I mean, if you don't know what DB means, the second word is bag. The first word, rhymes with what you might call a two card if you're playing cards, right? A deuce, right? And so, yeah, I mean, that's what I said to this kid, 17 years old, and I was, 47, right? So literally like 30 years older than this kid, old enough to be potentially his grandfather, for crying out loud. And I literally said that to him. Right? That's how much the anger and the impatience used to control me. And so when we learn when we build this skill, I should say, when our bodies learn to be present, to be accepting of what happens, like if that same thing was to happen now, I would have walked up and said, hey, kid, you're doing a great job. I know it's hard. You're all alone up here. Did you consider maybe calling for help? But man, you're doing a great job, dude. That's what I would say now. But back then I said, you know what? You're a real DB. Like, I am so mortified that happened. But that's the thing, right? And again, that's where one of the most important life skills that comes out of this work is the skill of patience, right? The skill that just, that knows in your body that, you know what? This is just a little bit of time. It's okay, right? It's like, because again, that's the level of acceptance, right? When we're truly present with what we're doing, we're accepting of what we find in this present moment, and we're allowing our compassion to lead us, right? The compassion first, kindness first. And then being curious, like, why is it that there's nobody helping this poor kid? Like, what's going on here? What kind of store is this? I should speak to a manager, and not like a Karen kind of way, but say, hey, this poor kid up here, I mean, somebody's going to call him a DB, right? But the point is that patience can benefit us in every area of our life, right? If you're a manager or employer, patience is going to mean the difference between cultivating an amazing employee or getting somebody to resent you, right? And having a revolving door. Patience as a parent, I mean, come on, right? I mean, patience as a parent can mean the difference between developmental, your child's brain developing properly or not. Patience with driving can avoid life-threatening accidents, right? I could go on and on and on, right? But patience in any walk of life is going to benefit you so greatly. And patience is one of the natural things, the natural qualities that arise from this work. So if you want to talk more about patience, I'm your guy. Now I am. I wasn't before, but I am now. And if you would like to kind of explore this, and you would like to, perhaps even work with a coach who can help you to achieve this really enormously beneficial quality and skill, well, then I want you to reach out to me. Okay, you can do that by going to my website, artburnscoaching.com. At the bottom of every page, there's a clock, right? A little banner that has a clock on it. It says schedule a free call. Click the button, pick out a time and a day that works, because you open up into my calendar, pick a time and day that's open that works for you, enter your email and a couple little other pieces of information, then you're done. And I take it from there. And literally you are just, along for the ride until you start to really benefit from this work, right? And then you are in the driver's seat of your own life, right? Because that's really what patience is. Patience is the difference between just being along for the ride and being in control of the ride. And I would love for that to be true for you. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Wish me luck in my interview, and I'll be back in tomorrow to talk about some more stuff. I love you all. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.